People in Europe, they don't know much about the Philippines. When they think of Asia, they think of Thailand. They don't expect a lot of things to be so modern and advanced and convenient.
Meet Patrick Armstrong, who worked as a policeman in Northern Ireland for 14 years. He then lived in Mexico, Germany and Spain before moving to the Philippines 5 years ago. Patrick shared what Westerners completely misunderstand about the Philippines, what Filipino sense of humor is like, and why there are so many armed people in Manila. I'm Max, your new YouTube friend. Let's go.
So you lived in Dublin, you lived in Mexico,
Yeah.
and in Berlin. But eventually you've chosen the Philippines.
Yeah, few big things. I came here on vacation in 2017. I liked it, and I wasn't able to move out straight away. So it took about 2 years to go back to Europe, 2 years to move out.
Yeah.
So the language is a big deal. You can go into any government building, all the road signs, everything, everything's in English. Pretty much almost every Filipino I've ever met has a good level of English to very, very good level, like so better English than nearly all English people sort of level. Because I'm not able to retire just yet, I still have to work at some things. So yeah, the weather, I love it. The language massively helps. I enjoy the big city life, because I grew up in a small town, and even where my mum lives in Spain is quite a small town. So I really enjoy the big city life, the convenience of everything, the millions of people around, easy to make friends, that sort of thing.
Is there anything that Westerners don't understand about the Philippines? Something that they don't get about the country, if they never been here?
I think sometimes people have warped memories of their own country. So sometimes I find Westerners, even friends, complain about something being slow or something being overly complicated. And I was like, it's not any better in the UK, or it's more difficult. That sort of stuff is more difficult to do in the UK or to do in Germany or Spain. Spain is incredibly bureaucratic. I've actually found most things quite easy here with the government offices. It's like when I go in to do anything, it's been fast. There's been a lot of, if you go into a government office in the UK, there's like 50 people waiting to have a service done, and there's 2 people working behind the counter. In the Philippines, you go in, there's like a few people waiting and 10 people behind the counter. So I find actually a lot of things not everything, a lot of things quite easy to deal with, quite efficient. Everything's in English.
The paperwork is in English?
All in English, yeah.
All in English?
All the courts, because I've had to get documents signed at courts. Even one of the courts, I needed a judge to sign. It was business stuff. I had to get a judge to sign some documents. Show up at this court, and 20 minutes later, a judge has signed these documents and stamped them for a few pesos. And wow, okay. Well, I guess in Europe, a lot of people in Europe, when they think of Asia, they think of Thailand, especially UK and Ireland. So they think of Thailand. They don't know much about the Philippines. So it's the Americans that are more familiar with the Philippines. They don't expect a lot of things to be so modern. So modern and advanced and convenient. And I think when I was doing the YouTube videos, so I went through BGC. BGC I can kind of consider like a mini Singapore, except better. You might disagree with me. But
no, that's like, I was like impressed by the place.
I did, like, for example, a couple of years ago, I had to, the company I worked for sent me on a business work trip to Singapore. And I was like, I don't want to go,
Why not?
Well, it's, for me, I'd rather spend the weekend in, BGC is only 10 minutes from me. I said, I'd rather hang out in BGC than go to Singapore. It's about a fifth of the price. It's much more compact. You can walk everywhere. And for me, it's a much nicer vibe to it. So yeah, I did this video, 18-minute video of BGC High Street. And I was saying, this is one of the most modern, safest cities I've ever been in. And so BGC is like a bubble within Metro Manila itself. And because Metro Manila is made up of 17 cities, BGC is one of them. That's Makati, the other one.
Makati is also super nice.
Yeah. So so as the thumbnail on for YouTube, I did Philippines, third world, question mark. So I was being ironic.
All right.
And So I did that, and a lot of comments were people saying, "Oh, thank you for showing our country. People think it's just nipa huts and coconut trees." But then a lot of Filipinos didn't actually get it. Like, how dare you say our country is third world? It's developing, and I'll have you deported. And I'm like, I'm being ironic, and can you not see I've shown one of the most advanced modern cities in the world in the middle of Metro Manila? So I guess one of the things they're a bit surprised at is how modern the city can be.
Yesterday I walked around this triangle, how you call it?
Ayala Triangle.
Ayala Triangle. The vibe is super nice. Like, people are chilling outside, someone is running, someone is just doing some jiu-jitsu stuff, and someone just chilling. Okay, it's first impression. It's not, I wouldn't judge the country by first impression, but it's kind of feel of freedom, let's say, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And different places, like you go to Jakarta, you have different feeling. You go to Bangkok, you have different feeling. So here it's like very nice, I would say.
Yeah, there's generally a good vibe. That trip to Singapore I went to Boat Quay and Clark Quay, but I can't remember which one it was. So I went down there, and the first bar I saw had about I think they were British actually. You had about 10 or 12 British guys, and you've got that work hard, play hard type in Singapore. So they're in this bar and they're all singing, and it's like a rugby team almost, and very loud. And I was thinking, you don't get that in BGC. BGC is much more chilled. Even with my American and British friends, we sit outside, have our beers, coffees, and it's a lot quieter and more chilled, and watch people go by. The other funny thing about BGC is in the prams or the strollers, usually when you see someone pushing a stroller, there's a dog in it as well. So everyone's got cool little dogs. And
how's your social circle look like here? Like mix of foreigners, Filipino, or?
My guy friends have mostly, over the years, have mostly been expats. So mainly Americans and British, and a few others, Dutch and different things scattered around. They've all dated or married Filipinas.
Yeah.
So
which is super common.
So then my girlfriends have been Filipino, and often when I've dated someone, I've usually stayed friends with them. So for quite a while, all my Filipino friends have been girls, whether my friends, wives or girlfriends, or girls I've met. Up until probably the last year or two, funny enough, I'm drinking from it. I've gotten very much into going to watch stand-up comedy. So the guys there, there's a mix of Filipino comedians. So developed more sort of like male friends through that. So, but very much a mix of foreign and Filipino friends.
Yeah, I had this advice from someone, I think, in Malaysia. So if you come to a new country and you wanna understand it better, go to the local stand-up club and comedy show and see what jokes are that people laugh about, and then you kind of understand what's the hidden things that's going on in society.
So when I moved here as well, really wasn't a culture shock. So I'm from Ireland, I've lived in Spain, I've lived in Mexico. Even though I'm an atheist and not interested in religion, a country like Ireland, the foundations have been built on Catholicism. So it's been a big influence on its culture and its laws, and the exact same as Spain. So the Philippines is the same. It's very much a Catholic country. So it really wasn't a culture shock in any way. And I find the general sense of humor, understanding of sarcasm. So for example, I mean, the Filipinos and the Irish sarcasm is much more similar than Irish-Australian sarcasm. So I find Australians can take things very literally and stuff. I find Irish and Filipinos are closer culturally than Australians and Irish, for example.
I was just curious, why is that? Because Philippines heavily influenced by American pop culture. So I would expect the sense of humor is more like the comedians from the US, not like the British salty humor.
In the comedy club anyway, when I speak to the actual comedians, when they say, "What's your favorite comedians?" I go, "Oh, Bill Burr is my favorite," and they're like, "Oh, Bill Burr's my favorite," and okay, he's American. They love Ricky Gervais.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Yeah, so Jim Jeffries is good. He's Australian. I remember two Irish comedians, famous Irish comedians, Ed Byrne and Dara O'Brien.
Yeah.
And they made a TV show traveling Asia, and I think they're in Vietnam and Laos and Cambodia, that area.
Yeah.
So they looked at the comedy scene and they're saying, "Oh, the comedy scene is very much in its infancy there. It's a very different type of humor." Yeah. So these two professional comedians that are super famous and sell out theaters, they got up and tried some of their material in these comedy clubs and just bombed. Nobody was laughing. Whereas here, when I go and see the Filipino comedians, it's same observational humor. They enjoy the Western style, watching the Western style comedians, and their acts are along the same lines of observational humor. So you get that. We're all laughing at the same thing.
Okay, what are the jokes about? Let's say I give you an example. Like I go to comedy shows in Singapore. And there are a lot of in Singapore, I don't know if you've been there, but that's the mix of three predominant races, like Chinese, Indian, Malay, and others. So we are others. The society is pretty harmonic in a way that people really can live along with each other. So they're fine. But if you go to the comedy show, there will be lots of jokes about racist jokes about the relationship between Chinese, Indian, Malay, Malaysian Malay and Singaporeans. There are a lot of, so that's the hidden stuff that you kind of don't talk about when you meet people in real life. But in comedy show, it's that's the jokes.
They understand that as well. So they kind of say, "Look, these are just jokes, guys.
Yeah.
We don't want to go viral with anything. It's a safe space."
Yeah.
One of the guys, I think, I'm trying to think of a couple of recent ones. Filipinos kind of joke, go, "Oh, we're very racist here. We're very racist. What do we call Chinese people here?" And they went, someone can't remember the word. What do we call Indians? Can't remember the word. And what do we call white people, sir? And quite often I'm the only foreigner white guy in the audience, so they know me now as well, so they pick on me a bit and. Just it's observational humor. One of the guys, his girlfriend's pregnant, or his wife's pregnant actually, and this actually is quite a cultural thing. The healthcare system here, it's all private. It's like America. You have to pay for everything. The health insurance doesn't cover much.
Okay.
So he's saying a natural birth is $4,000 or $4,000. Cesarean section is $7,000. So he's like, I'm there with the doctor, or they're explaining all the prices. He says, "I feel like I've gone." Do you know when you go into a store, and a very expensive store, and you can't afford anything, but you don't want to tell them that, and they're like, "How much is that suit?" "That's $7,000. Nice. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. How much is that? $5,000. Okay. Yeah. So he felt like that in the doctor's surgery, getting all these prices for giving birth to his child, and he's like.
And then natural. Yeah. Let's go. Natural.
Yeah. Okay, that's good deal. $7,000. So it's very. It's this type of humor we're all used to watching Netflix stand up. I think the Filipinos and Irish are very similar.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh,
we're very very
both
similar
very friendly. That's one thing.
Yeah. Well, it depends. Southern Irish are quite different from Northern Irish.
Okay.
So I guess. I guess the biggest difference is Northern Ireland are probably, as a nation, probably some of the most aggressive, confrontational people in the world.
Oh,
and so the Philippines is the complete opposite.
Yeah,
probably one of the least confrontational nations in the world, and and not aggressive in general. So that was the biggest. From Northern Ireland to here, that was probably the biggest difference. But I'm generally a very calm, non-aggressive person anyway, so it wasn't. For me, it was nice to leave that part of Northern Ireland.
I used to live in Ireland, in Dublin, so I spent there 3.5 years. And Irish people, to me, my experience was that super lovely people. Like you cross the border, you come back to Ireland, like you cross the border, and they actually you're on like employment pass visa, let's say, and the officer tells you, "Welcome home." It's like how sweet is that?
Yeah, the south of Ireland has a slight different vibe to Northern Ireland, and plus, in fairness, in Northern Ireland, I worked in the police there, so I saw the worst side of it, which a lot of people wouldn't see.
Did you have a lot of like crazy stories back then?
Yeah, it is a bit of a weird place to work. For example, it's like so it's a nice relief because we have a bad terrorist problem, and they tend to target police officers when they're off duty. Because you're less likely to have a gun. So for 14 years, I had to look on. So one of their tactics is put a bomb under your car. So
wow.
So for
still at your time,
still now.
Wow.
So for 14 years of every morning or afternoon, getting into my car, I have to like look underneath the car. Even if you drive somewhere to a park to go for a run, you come back and look under. So it was nice to. It took about, even after I left the country, it took about 2 years to shake that off, to get the muscle memory shaken off from that. So it's just a very to work there as a police officer. It's a very weird type of life. To live there, it can be very weird as well with segregation. So you have like Catholic schools, Protestant schools. You have bars. Where predominantly Catholics go, or bars where predominantly Protestants go, and there's still quite a lot of segregation there.
Wow. So it would be weird if you're, let's say, Catholic and you come to the Protestant bar, so you'll have glances.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot better over the years, but in parts it can still be pretty bad.
Wow.
So they're just places where, especially the smaller towns, just bars and areas just Catholics wouldn't go, bars and areas Protestants wouldn't go. So a lot of the country is still very segregated.
So it's 14 years, right, as a police officer there. It's a long time. Can you recall any like the craziest story that you can tell from that time?
I guess one of the more interesting times I worked there is we held in my hometown where I grew up and where I worked actually there. It hosted the G8 summit. So it was the last time before Russia was removed from it. Actually, it's now the G7, so it's the last G8 summit. So it was very interesting seeing the planning and preparation put into that, having 8 world leaders come there. And then, funny enough, this rolls into the segregation part. So Barack Obama was president at the time. So he and David Cameron, the British Prime Minister, the one visit they did away from the G8 summit, the hotel zone which had the ring of steel around it, was they went to the only integrated school in the town. So which was Catholic, Protestant, Polish, whoever could go to it. So Barack Obama, I think, being black, he was most interested in that. So it was the only visit they did. So David Cameron joined the American motorcade with Barack Obama. Because I was trained in CBRN, chemical, biological, radioactive, nuclear, there was such a huge setup. You had Secret Service there all around the school. So they even set up for, in case someone comes out and throws a liquid at them or a white powder, they need to think about what to do. So the Americans have their own team to deal with Barack. So I was brought in on the team to deal with David Cameron. So we had like a scientist there who had all the equipment to test the powder. We had 2 paramedics, and we're all in. We all looked like we were coming from Chernobyl or something. We're all in proper gear. So then they had 2 police officers. So we were at the side of the fence watching Barack Obama and David Cameron coming in. But the Americans don't trust anyone. So you basically had 2 foreigners there. Well, foreigners, they were in Northern Ireland, we were Northern Irish police. So we had guns, and we were going to be within a few meters of their president. So then they had this Navy SEAL.
They actually they don't trust you as well.
No, so they had this Navy SEAL type guy standing behind us. So we were standing there watching him. So the Americans put their own guy behind us.
Watching you.
Yeah, so it's just like, so it's like me and the other policemen, like, keep your hands away from your gun, because just in case just in case we went, there's the president, he would shoot us. So even though they were in Northern Ireland, yeah, the Americans don't leave anything to chance. It was,
Yeah.
we were watching them, they were watching us. So that was so the entire G8 was an interesting experience with all the world leaders there. The planning
Yeah.
went into it, but yeah, that was a weird moment.
Wow.
So we had a special van there as
Yeah.
well. So if something happened, we would take Cameron, put him in the specialized van, take him to
Uh-huh.
hospital, hose him down.
It feels safe here,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the central Manila. Feels very safe, but there are so many people with guns, like so many police, so many like these armored crazy cars, like Batman mobiles, and like guards carrying guns, carrying rifles. It's like, why, if you can explain for people who are not don't really know what's going on, why it's like
Well,
that?
the gun laws are very relaxed here. I think it's been the American influence over the last 100 years. So you've a lot of gun clubs. Gun ownership is quite easy. Not for a foreigner, but for locals, gun ownership is quite easy. So there are a lot of guns here. But gun crime is very, very low.
Is very low.
Yeah.
I would expect like in the US, if guns are so accessible, so like some bad guys can get access to it, but no, there's like it's the gun violence is low.
There's lots of guns here, but like I said, gun violence is it's pretty low for a population of over 100 million people. I've had a lot of good experiences with the police here. I mean, they're generally friendly. It's generally just talking to them on the street or whatever. They were generally nice and friendly. And I often say about police, when I joined, my friends were a bit worried that I would become an asshole. And so I was like, don't worry, I won't become an asshole. And I don't, for Northern Ireland as well, I've worked with a lot of assholes. I've worked with guys that have some issues. I've worked with some great people.
You mean in police department?
In the police, yeah.
No.
So I always say to my friends, police are people. So you get some assholes, you get some good guys, you get unprofessional guys, you get professionals. So they're humans, they're people. So they're not all brilliant, they're not all terrible. So.
You made quite a career switch, like from being a police officer to the union consulting, right? One of the big firms in Philippines.
Well, actually, it was a very sort of similar switch. So it did sort of corporate investigations and so on. So and due diligence and business advisory. So it was a big switch going from government style to corporate world. So there's a lot of small differences, but it was a transferable skill set to bring it over.
And so here you work for this one of the big corporations.
I've worked for a couple of companies here, multinationals. So the previous one was one of the big four.
If I may ask, like the level of salaries, if you work for multinational, and the life is pretty affordable in Manila, so it's probably you have a lot of money being saved here. Is it the case? The salaries tend to be lower in the Philippines.
Yeah, the salaries are a lot lower. My wages have sort of, especially the first company I worked for, is sort of multinational, and I was sort of brought in as a consultant to kind of help fix. It was a smaller company, but help fix the office. So it was like a shorter term contract, and it was like bring in for 6 months, fix it. So that was a bit better paid, but generally for corporate work here as well, it's to go into corporation here, the salary is a lot lower at every level, senior manager level, country manager level, all the way down. And even what I see the associates and senior associates on, it's a pretty low wage. In the Philippines, what wages they're on.
Do you have any like important principle in life, something that is really that you you learn something through the years of your like professional work and your life, some like one or two like main principle that you follow?
I actually had this on my phone screensaver for a long time. It was a quote from John Lennon, and I don't know how accurate the quote is because he said he was 5 years old, a bit advanced for a 5-year-old, or he could have been 10 or something. He says, I was in school, the teacher gave us an assignment or asked, what do you want to be in life? And I said, happy. And she goes, you don't understand the assignment. And he said, you don't understand life. So I had that for my screensaver for a while. So I see especially in Northern Ireland, people are more practical minded. They don't put a lot of emphasis on travel or life experiences. They just work as much as possible, buy a house, renovate their house, extend their house, or whatever else. So for me, life experience is quite important, which is why I've traveled a lot, lived in different countries. And I guess sort of leading on to that, the other, because I know you sort of focus on business and stuff as well. You know, I was born in 1981, so throughout my life we've had a few sort of recessions, which are becoming more and more frequent.
Yeah.
So in 2008, we had the financial crash and property crash, which hit me really, really badly. Pretty much wiped me out with a lot of stuff. So had that crash, and then started to sort of build a bit back up with that. And then all my investments and stuff were in British pounds. And then we had Brexit, and then the currency just collapsed 25% after Brexit. And I'm like, And then, so then back in corporate world, 2019, everything's going great. It wasn't just that work, a few other projects, everything's going great. Then lockdown happens. I'm like, oh, fuck me. So I was like, this is getting more and more frequent. Yeah. And I've been busting my ass all these years, trying to invest, trying to do this, working hard, and it's just one after the other. So since the lockdowns and another kick in the balls, it's been, I was just like, right, for future work and future projects and things. And also, I'm 43 years old now. They're talking about, the next pandemic. So, there's war. So then it's just like, so now my principle is like, right, whatever I take on, I need to enjoy. So I don't want to take on another job that I hate. And not that I hated the previous ones, but they were extremely high stress, hard work, long hours. So now it's just like, right, well, I want to take a bit of time out, take a breather, and look at stuff I enjoy, because I'm not getting any younger. I wanted to be richer by this stage, but like I said, several recessions, Brexits, everything has had a few knockbacks. So it's like, right, okay, I'm not going to spend the next 10 years working at something I hate. So now it's just like, right, whatever I do, I need to at least enjoy it.